Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Friday and it's time to check out a couple of new things that have come um, into the corner in the past little while. As you all know, I was starting to bring in the Nuvo watercolor pencils last month, and I finally have all of them that I ordered here. So we're going to give a test to those, check them out, see how well they work. But first, because this is just too adorable, this is a pencil sharpener. I do have a coupon for this sharpener at 45% off. So it's a unicorn. I had to buy it. It's a unicorn. Come on, people. I had to buy it. So I did purchase this. It is literally the cutest thing ever. It's an M&G, and there is also a dinosaur. I did not purchase the dinosaur, but I did purchase the unicorn. So you pop his little head back, and I have it at the lowest setting. So we're going to test some pencils in it and show you how this works. So you just put the pencil in, it pulls it in, sharpens it, and pushes it out. And it does a really good sharpen on the lowest setting. So let's check it out on the medium setting here. So let's put it on medium. And it does a much longer sharpen, a finer sharpen, a thinner sharpen on the medium. And then we're going to check it out on the longest or the highest sharpen level. And as you can see, it pulls it down quite far, but it does a very, very fine sharpen on that one. So you can definitely tell the difference between the dull sharpen, which sharpens it quite long, but it doesn't have that really, really, really fine point that the really sharp one does. So those are the three different levels of sharpening that this sharpener does. It is rechargeable. And it is electric. So it has a helix blade in it. To take the shavings out, it has a little lock and unlock here. So you just turn the head of the unicorn and open it up and it unlocks. To put it back on, you put it back on in the same position and try to get it lined up because I'm not. And then you just turn it to the locked position. Of course, it is a USB cable that comes with it that you can use to charge the device. It also has a no skids pad underneath, so it's not going to go anywhere when you're using it. Cute little sharpener, works really, really well, and it doesn't have any issues with the Starjoy Gold pencils. Like I said, there are different levels of sharpening. I like to have a really, really sharp point, but the dull point even comes to quite a nice sharp point where you're still going to get into those little areas, and it uses less amount of the pencil up than, say, this one here, which is the sharpest point. And as you can see, it takes longer for it to get to that point. So it uses up a little bit more of the pencil and it brings that sharp point down a little bit. So definitely both points are fantastic. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. I suddenly had a sneeze come on. I did not want to sneeze in your ears. Oh, great. Now I'm going to have the sniffles. It seems I'm allergic to pencil wood. So as you can see, the point is like really, really sharp, really fine. So you're definitely going to get into those really tight areas with that pencil. Okay, well, hopefully that was the last of the sneezes. We're going to move on away from the Starjoy Gold pencils because they're making me sneeze. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, hopefully that's done. Ugh. So we have the Nuvo watercolor pencils, and I have done a little swatch of them. We're going to swatch them again on the watercolor paper, but here are the colors of them. And they're a nice set of colors. So you've got your skin tones here, your brilliantly vibrant colors here, the elementary midtones here, the pastel highlights here, and the dark shadows here. So it's a really good amount of different colors. I will probably be putting them into color order so that we can not go crazy with this um, mix up of colors. But I wanted to put them in section order as well so that if you only buy the skin tones, you know what colors you're getting. All right, so we're going to activate these two different ways. One with a Tombow water-based marker. This is a water-based blender marker. So there is no color to this marker. It just will activate the pigment. The other is a proper water brush. This is a Caran d'Ache water brush. It just has water in it. So let's start with our skin tones. I'll show you the pencils. I'm going to zoom you down a little bit here. I'm going to sniffle. I do apologize. I'm not going to zoom you in that far because you don't want to see everything but the back of my hand. So I have had some issues with this box. It likes to pop off. The lid likes to come off, so be careful of that. Um, when they were shipped to me, it was very wet outside, so some of the pencils themselves are showing a little bit of moisture wick. So basically, when the pencil gets wet, the color wicks down the wood a little bit. And I think that was due to the moisture that was in the air because they did not bring these to my door. They instead put them in my mailbox and left them there. Did not notify me that they were delivered. So, yeah, they were left in the mailbox during the cold and rain. So, but they're really nice looking colors. The pencils themselves are quite nice. They're a white barrel. They have Nuvo and the watercolor pencils, and then the color name. This one here is Ivory Rose. There is no numbers on the pencils, just names. So when I do the swatch chart, it will be named based. All right, so we're going to start with Ivory Rose on the watercolor paper here. And we're just going to do an area. And I'm going to put down quite a bit of color so that we can see how far it will drag with the blender as well as the brush. Now this color is very light, so we're not going to see a lot of color after it starts to move. So this is the blender. And as you can see, that blended out quite a ways, but it definitely moved it and dissolved that full pigment. Same with the water, has dissolved the full pigment, but because this is such a light color, it's very hard to see how far it dragged or drug or moved. The next one is barley bisque, barley barley bisque. That's it, barley bisque. Sorry, the light is hitting it in a certain way that I can barely see what it was saying. All right, so we've got that down. Now we're going to move it And as you can see, it completely dissolves even with the watercolor blender brush, which is definitely a bonus. I want to be able to completely dissolve the pencils I use, even if I'm not going to use a water brush. That color doesn't drag a whole lot, but the one thing I really like about these is that they dissolve completely. You know, their pigment and everything else just completely dissolves. So you're not getting that hard line on your page. That one was a soft apricot. So as you can see, it's completely dissolving. And I can drag it a little ways, but with coloring books, the dissolve is more important than the drag, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to use water. And with water, I can drag it further. So with water, it definitely goes a little bit further. Now the next one is going to be, this one here is strawberry milkshake. And again, I'm putting down enough pigment to actually move. I'm not putting down a light layer. I'm not pressing really hard on it, but I am putting down a good heavy amount of pigment down. You may not put that much pigment down while you're coloring, but when you're trying to see how well they dissolve and if they will move with your marker or brush, you need enough pigment to actually do that. Again, it doesn't move as far as the water brush did up there with the Tombow, but with the water brush I can move it quite a ways. It does completely dissolve with both uh, tools, which is really wonderful with these pencils that they completely dissolve like that. Excuse me, sorry. Like I said, sneezing, now I'm going to get the sniffles. And this one here is Pinot Noir. And again, just putting down a good layer of the pigment on the page so that when I activate it, it will show the color and give me the ability to move that pigment around. So of course the darker colors are going to move further than the lighter colors. It's got a good distance on the movement with the Tombow marker there. And we're going to activate it with the water. And it has a really good movement with the water. Just going to make sure it's all activated. So yeah, definitely has a good amount of pigment with the water brush. I still have pigment on the brush to about that point, so it definitely moves quite nicely with the water brush. This one is called Heather Dusk. Okay, we're going to activate with the Tombow. And as you can see, it's completely activated there. And with the watercolor brush as well. And we're going to pull this out as far as it'll go, moving that pigment to the end there. And as you can see, it just completely dissolves with the water, which is great. All right, next one is roasted chestnut. Sorry about that. So that's roasted chestnut. And we'll go through the skin tones here, and the other ones I'll go through the colors with you. We're not going to test them all today. I just wanted to show you with some of them the ability for the movement, as well as the fact that they do completely dissolve with the brush as well as the Tombow marker. Now, as you can see, I've got the pigment on the brush, and there's still a little bit of pigment there. So I'm just going to break that up, pick it up on the brush, and move it down like so. And it goes quite a distance before it starts dissipating. Pretty color though. All right. The next one is iced tea. I want to actually take a look at some of the reds and the darker, brighter colors as well, because I did notice one thing while I was doing the swatch chart, and I don't know if it was because it was on swatch chart paper, not watercolor paper, but I did notice that I was getting, with some of the reds, a little bit of lack of breakdown in some of the colors, where I was still seeing that harsh line. And it could have very well been that the paper wasn't allowing it. So I will try those on watercolor paper and see if that makes a difference. So that's a pretty long spread for that iced tea color. And now we're going to use the water and make sure that the brush is clean. And then we're going to break this down with the water. And we're going to drag it out. So as you can see, you can get quite a distance with it, with the water. That drug really far. All right, the next one is another light color. So this is wild mushroom, which is a warm gray. So I'm going to make sure that I have enough pigment down for it to actually activate, as well as show you the color. All right, so we're going to start with the Tombow and make sure the brush is clean. And as you can see, it completely dissolves. And then we're going to move it out. And the lighter colors don't move as far, but that's to be expected. But it did completely dissolve, and I was able to move it. Now I want to make sure that I've got all that iced tea off of there. Again, completely dissolves, and I'm able to move it a little ways. Not as far as, say, the iced tea, but I was able to move that light color around. This one here is a desert camel. Try and make sure it's even. And we're going to start with the Tombow. And my Tombow is actually quite dry, so the fact that it's activating and actually moving the color is really quite amazing to me. Because, yeah, it was too dry to even activate the ink tints. So the fact that it is activating this without any additional fluid in it is kind of impressive. It's either that or else I was using the wrong end, or it just decided it just really didn't want to work that day. Because they do that. All right, so again, it activated. I was able to drag it. It's a lighter color, so it's not dragging as far as I would like it to. But it did activate and will work really well for the coloring books. So this is caramel popcorn. I must say, for a skin tone set, they definitely don't have skin tone names. And I'm not sure if that's a choice they made to protect their selves from having having those skin tone definitions. You know what I mean. Sometimes they having those skin tone definitions pigeon toes them into an area that they don't instead of allowing people to use them for whatever they want. So it did pull that color quite far. It's a lovely yellow color. Yeah, nice tanny yellow color. Completely dissolved, and I'm able to pull it. My brush isn't wet enough. Able to pull it quite a ways. With very little water because my brush has decided that it's not going to work anymore. There we go. I had to fix it. Sometimes you need to pull the plunger up on these ones and make them work. But as you can see, I've gotten quite far with that yellow tone. And this one here is pale blonde, and I'm going to do it up here. And I'll show you just the skin tone colors and the distances that they moved and what you can expect from them with on watercolor paper. Like I said, they are going to work, and I have done a page in a coloring book with them, and I'll show you that as well. And they did work very well in there. However, the book did not like water, so yeah, there was an issue with the paper. Ooh, that's a lot of water coming off of there now. So as you can see, completely dissolved. A little bit too much water on there, so it didn't move it as much. It actually washed it out a little bit. So be careful how much water is coming down off your brush when you're activating these. All right, so there is our skin tone set. One sec, let me zoom it out a little bit. So there is our skin tone colors. Just gonna hate it when my mouse doesn't want to work. Okay, so we've got our really light colors into our darker colors here and our reds and our pinks, and then our brown tones down here as well as our yellow tones. And it did very well with moving those colors around as well as dissolving the pigment of those colors. There are some colors that are really, really light and would be great for highlights or blending, which is like this one here. Of course, there is a white as well, but um, different things like that are things that are added to add highlight, add blending, that sort of thing. We're going to go into the dark shadows here so that you can see how some of the darker colors move. Because the darker the color, the more pigment is going to be in there. So this one here is Pamplona Purple. And as you can see, it's a really, really dark color. Just going to make sure that I get a good amount of pigment on the paper, the same as I did with the lighter ones. Now, if you're coloring something that's fairly small, you're not going to want this much color on that area. This is just so I can see how far and how quickly that dissolves and how much pigment is going to be on that area when it dissolves. Nice color though. And as you can see, it definitely drags further than the lighter colors with the Tombow. Oh, that's not right on it. And this is the watercolor brush. And these are available on Amazon. The same with the sharpener I showed earlier. And like I said, the sharpener has a 45% off coupon available for it. So as you can see, they did move. Now, I didn't get as good of a breakdown in here with the water brush as I did up here with the Tombow. Now, I'm not sure if that's because I've got too much water on the brush or what's going on with that, but it didn't break down as well. Now we're going to try this one here, which is Brick Wall, which is a reddish orange color. And I'm not going to press as hard this time. I'm just going to gently fill in the spaces so that we can move it. And as you can see, it does dissolve and it does move with the Tombow marker. So this method can be used with any water-based marker that is a blender. So it's a clear marker. It doesn't have any pigment in the marker. And I can drag this out quite a ways and it completely dissolves. Now with the water brush, let's make sure we don't have any excess color from somewhere else. We're going to dissolve this. And this dissolved much better than that purple one above. And as you can see, I can get quite a distance with that color. However, it's not as saturated, is not as bright as if you use the Tombow. The water does thin it down quite a bit. And that was out, those two are out of the dark shadows. Now we're going to try red out of the elementary tones. And this is, let's see, this one here. This one's fresh strawberry. And I'm just trying to get it out of the box. So this one's called fresh strawberry. It's a very vibrant red. And we're going to see the difference between adding water and adding just a marker activation, because the water does drag the color out further. However, it does dull it out as well. It does water it down a lot and makes the color a lot lighter. So if you want that really extreme vibrancy, it is better to use a marker activation than the water. However, if you want that soft watercolor look, definitely use the water. Now we're going to go with the water, giving it some activation. And as you can see, the pigment is not moving here as well as it did up here. So the activation of it is not going as well with the water pen as it did with the marker. We're still getting that line. However, there's a lot of pigment on the water brush. So as you can see, it can go quite a ways with that pigment that is there that did break down. Now doing small areas and using your Tombow marker for the breakdown in coloring books is definitely something I would suggest. Like I said, this is on um, watercolor paper, which has a lot of tooth and a lot of crevices for the paint to settle into. So having them not completely break down and where it's showing a stain of the color is perfectly normal, especially with these highly pigmented reds. This one here is rose trellis. So again, I want to try it with the red colors because I want to see how far it will go and if I can actually completely dissolve that pigment with both brushes. This one is a little bit more of a pink tone, and that's why I wanted to try it with this, because it's a nice dark pink tone. And as you can see, I can drag that color out quite a ways and it stays fairly vibrant. And with the watercolor brush, break that down. This one breaks down a little bit better and definitely goes a little bit further, but it does still wash out quite quickly. So definitely have the reds and that sort of thing that are a lot more vibrant and that do have a lot of pigment in them, where you could actually drag that pigment out a long ways if you wanted to, but you don't have to. You can definitely utilize the pigments in smaller areas and not have to put down as much pigment. Now I did do a watercoloring in a coloring book with these pencils on Discord, Now it did, of course, wrinkle the paper because of the fact that it is not watercolor paper, but the laydown was really nice. I was able to blend 2 and 3 different colors together to get shadows and that sort of thing. So I think all in all, these pencils are quite nice for what you get and for what you pay. Um, I am not an expert in watercolor pencils and watercolor medias at all. I just know what works for me, and having them completely dissolve the way they are in the coloring pages and even on my swatch chart, I do find that they are going to work very well for what I want to use them for. For artists themselves, for people that do watercolor painting um, and that sort of thing, I don't know how well these will work for you. They are actually sold as a tool for people that do arts and crafts and paint small areas. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So here are the sets. We've got our hair and skin tones. As you can see here, we've got some fairly nice light colors into our yellows, light colors into our dark colors, and into our yellows. This is hair and skin, so it works great for both skin as well as hair colors. And then we have our pastel highlights, which are our pastel tone colors. So they're very light and vibrant colors. So if you look down here at the pastel highlights, you can see that there's an orange, there's some really light yellows, light greens, light blues, into the purples, pinks, and peaches. So this I do believe is supposed to be a red tone, but when you add water to it, it washes it out into a more pinky tone. But as you can see, the colors are there, but they're just really light as a pastel color. This one here is brilliantly vibrant, which are very bright colors. If you look at brilliantly vibrant here from yellow, orange, red into our browns, this is where the white is, as well as the black. I tried to go over the black with the white so I could try to see it, but it blended too much. And then we have our pink, our purple, 2 different blues, a green and a dark green and a light green, a yellow green. So all of the colors in that set are actually really bright and they lay down really well and give you that ability to take, say, this purple here and this purple here or this purple over here and layer them to give yourself highlights as well as shadows and that sort of thing. So there's 3 different tones in here, a light, a medium, and a dark when it comes to those red violet tones. There's also violet tones in here as well, which are those lighter purple colors. I just can't see any of them right now. I'm not seeing the lighter violets for some reason. I know they're in here because I've used them, but my eyes just aren't picking them up. There's one there. That's a violet, a really gray tone blue violet. And there was a really light one, and I can't see it. But even with just those 2 blue violets, you can definitely build that color. And dark shadows, as I said before, are very dark colors where even when you add water, the color is quite muted and quite heavy. So we've got our grays, our gray browns, our gray yellows, some deep red oranges, some deep greens, and some dirty greens, as well as our deep blues and our deep purples. So that gives you the ability to build that shadow under the color or on top of the color. And then of course we have our elementary midtones, which are our medium colors. So definitely starting with our gray tones, reds, yellows, greens, blues, purples, and well, orange peach color. And then our red tones of deep reds as well as pinks. A really good set of colors there, which will definitely work for pretty much any mid-tone coloring that you want to do. The one thing I don't like about having things like dark shadows, elementary midtones, that sort of thing, highlights, is it pigeon toes those sets into where you could use them for. And you can use any of these colors for pretty much anything you're doing. As you can see down here, I was able to blend many different colors into this flower. I've got 3 different colors in here where I was able to blend the dark, the light, and the medium. However, there's so many different areas of color in each set that you can easily build that dark, medium, and light with just one set of these. You don't have to buy every single set. So don't feel it's necessary to have a full set. I have horrible full set syndrome and I need to have them all. But if you don't feel that you're going to use, say, the pastel tones or the skin tones, skin and hair colors, if those are things that you don't feel that you're going to need, don't feel the need to buy them because there are several of these tints and tones and colors in other areas that can be utilized and can be created with the other pencils that are available. All right, so that is the Nuvo watercolor pencils. It comes in 5 different sets. Of course, we've got elementary midtones, dark shadows, brilliantly vibrant pastel highlights, and hair and skin tones. Um, Again, this is a watercolor medium. You can color with these. So if you don't want to activate them, you can color with them. Just be aware that when you are coloring with them, they're going to be really dry, and they may create a lot more dust, especially if you're heavy-handed with them, than a regular pencil will. If you are heavy-handed with them and you don't activate them, but then decide to spray your picture with a fixative or that sort of thing, you will find that every color that you have laid down is going to move with that fixative because the fixative is a water-based product that will move that watercolor. These are not an Inktense. These are not a permanent Indian ink or anything like that. These are a water-based product, so they do move and remove or reactivate, I should say, when you try to layer them up. So when you are layering them up, it is best to be very careful of which direction you go. So going from dark to light, you're going to find that you're pulling all of that dark color from below up into your lighter colors. So it is best to do a end-to-end transition. So it will build the color together. So what I mean by that is, let's grab this one here. So I've got the elementary midtones here. So if you're doing an end-to-end transition, we've got a couple of different reds in here as well as an orange, and we'll do this with that. So I want to go from light to dark or from dark to light, whichever direction we want to go. So we're going to start with the light to dark, and we're going to go here and we're going to lay down our color in this area. Now, say I want to go from this really light color into a mid-tone color, so I'm going to take the red and I'm going to just overlap a little bit into that lighter color, and I'm going to bring that darker color out a little further. I'm not overlapping and coloring over top of the different colors. I'm just overlapping just a little tiny bit at the edge so that when I bring those colors together, we're going to get that gradient. So we always start with our light with doing a light to dark gradient. So we move that this way. Now make sure that you wipe off your brush. Otherwise you're going to do what I just did and get that orange covered with some red. Alright, so I'm going to show you with the water brush as well. Make sure you wipe your brush. Now another way that you can activate that so that you get a continuous movement is you can activate just the yellow orange first and then go into the red. Activate the red and then go into the dark red and bring it out. But as you can see, there's a lot of pigment built up on that. Now if we're going to go dark to light, normally what I do if I'm going to go dark to light is I will put down the dark color and then I will put the light color on top. And then the lightest color on top of that to give us our highlight. Now, basically what's going to happen with this being a watercolor is it's going to blend all of those colors together, and instead of giving me the light, dark, and highlight, it's going to just give me a different color. So, um, which is fine, but it's not what I wanted. So be careful of that. If you want this gradients and movement of color, make sure that you do an end-to-end color transition. Don't be doing a build up of light to dark. Now, even if I was to let this dry, okay, say I've got this one down here, which is the yellow, and I want to add some orange onto it, and I want to use that yellow as the highlight and some red. Now, when I activate this, I still have to be really careful which direction I'm going, because if I bring it this way, it's just going to cover up the yellow. Now, because these are water-based, bring some water down. My brush is being fussy. It doesn't want to. So because these are water-based, the pigment underneath is going to reactivate and blend together and mix in with the other color. So as long as you go in the opposite direction and move it out, you can get that blend. But if you try to bring it together the other way with on top of it, you're going to just mix it in and create a new color. Now, can you do the opposing with a darker color? So if we take a darker color and go over it, say we want to put a highlight here in this lighter color. If I go over top of this with the lighter color and activate that, is it going to give us that highlight, or is it going to mix in to the brown? Now, as you can see, it gives a little bit of the highlight, but it does mix into that brown color, changing that brown color to a different color. So be careful with that as well. Otherwise, they're a really nice pencil. They dissolve very, very nicely. You can definitely move the color around. You can pick them up and move them. You can reactivate them if you need to. So I'm just going to get some water here. This one here is completely dry. So I want to reactivate and then move that around a little bit more. I want that to be a little bit lighter there. And I can reactivate it and move it down as long as I have water in my brush. My brush is not being nice. It's being very fussy. So we're going to, there we go. Now it's over. Now it's overdoing it. So it is what it is. So as you can see, we can reactivate that, move it around, soften it out a little bit on the edge. Same with down here. And I can move that up and soften that edge up a little bit so we don't have such a harsh lineup of color there. So yeah, that is the Nuvo colored pencils. The all the different sets of 12. Each set has 12 pencils in it. And like I said, you can get all 5 sets or you can get one set at a time. They do work quite nicely in coloring books. I did find in the coloring book that using the Tombow marker was a better option. However, I did use water for the backgrounds and some of the larger areas, and I did find that the water did cause the paper to warp, of course, but it did activate all of the pigment, creating that that watercolor look that I wanted. All of the colors all together in all 5 of these sets is right here. So we have our skin set as well as our brilliantly vibrant set, our elementary midtones, our pastel highlights, as well as our dark shadows. Lots of different colors, lots of really pretty colors that work well together and will create a really nice set. When I put them in color order, I'll be able to see how many of them are really close to the same color, if any. Visually, to me, there are a couple that are really close to the same color, but not quite the same. So we'll be able to put them in gradient order so that we can see the movement of color as it goes down. All right, guys, so that is the Nuvo, or yeah, I can only say it as Nuvo. I don't know any other way to say it. It may have a different name, I'm not sure. These are a Tonic Studios product out of the USA. And I don't know if the pencils are made in China or if they are made in the US, but it says made in China, or if it's the tin that's made in China. I'm not sure, but they are a Tonic Studios product, and Tonic Studios has some really great products, and that's why when I saw them, I jumped on them because I have some Nuvo um, glitter drops, and those are absolutely wonderful. So. The other thing that we looked at, and I do have a um, coupon for on the Enable train. There is the unicorn as well as a dinosaur. So you can have a little unicorn on your desk for sharpening your pencils. And like I showed you before, they have 3 different levels of sharpness. Some are really, really fine point sharp. Some have a really good thick sharpened point, um, but it still has a good point on it. So 3 different levels of sharpness. I have not tried it with, say, a square pencil or a triangular pencil, but I would assume that they would work. It does pull the pencil down on itself, on its own. That's the word I'm looking for. And it also does do the full sharpen for you. So now I've got a Derwent here. Let's make sure it'll, and it does sharpen that chunky Derwent as well. And it's going to eat my entire Derwent. So it did sharpen the Derwent. However, my Derwent is really short, so it's decided that it didn't want to eject it, which is fine. I will just pop the lid off here. Maybe not. Okay. So let's, oh dear. Now I gotta figure out how to get this pencil out of here, because I know there's a way to eject it. I just gotta remember. I will figure that out. I know there's a way to eject it, and I can't remember what it is, so I will figure it out and work on that. Just make sure that when you put your pencils in, you've got it selected to the right selection. And if you have a very short pencil, be very careful what selection you had it on or have it on. I had it on a quite a long selection, so I had it on this one and it pulled my pencil all the way in. I'm going to have to actually take this apart and see how I can get my pencil out of there. So I will let you know the saga of the stuck pencil. Hopefully I can get it out. All right, guys, thank you all very much for watching. The Nuvo colored pencils, watercolor pencils are available on Amazon. The unicorn that I have managed to break within the first 10 minutes of using it um, is available on Amazon. Don't put your short pencils into it. Obviously not a good plan, because now my short pencil's stuck in there. And I will work on getting that out. I just don't want to dump that stuff all over my desk. It does pull them in and spit them out, back out, but sometimes with short pencils, they don't come out far enough to grab hold of them. All right, guys, with that, thank you all very much for watching. I will put the coupon for the pencil sharpener below the video, as well as on the, it's available on the enable station, and I will put both links for all of the Nuvo as well as the sharpener on the project listing as well. All right, guys, with that, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And of course, always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until next time, bye bye for now.